Tonight, the government is about to order companies that took a taxpayer bailout to cut the compensation of their top executives in half. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, the H1N1 flu taking a toll on America's children and their education. Dozens of schools around the country are closed, tens of thousands of kids told to stay home. And Mexican drug cartels, not in Mexico, right here in the United States, making Atlanta their capital.
Search warrant, search warrant!
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. Taxpayers all over the country were outraged when they heard that companies they helped bail out turned around and gave their executives huge bonuses. And now the Obama administration is about to take action. It's ordering the 7 companies that got the biggest bailouts, including AIG, Bank of America, and GM, to cut the compensation of their 25 highest paid executives, cut it by 50%. Cheryl Atkinson is covering the story tonight. And Cheryl, all that taxpayer anger was finally heard loud and clear.
That's right, Kate. The backlash against executive pay is back, and this time it's personal, directly hitting the pocketbooks of highest paid executives at the companies that got the most taxpayer bailout money.
After months of negotiations with the companies involved, Treasury Department Compensation Chief Ken Feinberg will order the deep cuts. At the 7 companies that received exceptional assistance from taxpayers, as defined by Treasury, the 25 best paid executives will have their salaries cut on average by 90%, total compensation cut in half. The official announcement is yet to come, and the exact details aren't fully known. If Citigroup CEO Vikram Pandit were to have his 2008 compensation of $38 million cut in half, he'd be left with around $19 million. Hundreds of other banks are exempt from the drastic cuts soon to be announced. Wells Fargo received $25 billion and hasn't paid it back, but they're still subject to lesser compensation limits imposed under TARP. Banks like Goldman Sachs, which got $10 billion in TARP money but has paid it all back, escape any government interference in compensation. Goldman has set aside $16.7 billion for end-of-year bonuses so far. The impending salary cuts were applauded by tax watchdog Ryan Alexander.
The government wants to make sure that people know that their taxpayer dollars are not being wasted, that their tax dollars are not just going to pad the nests of already highly compensated executives who helped get us into this mess.
Others warn that slashing executive pay will lead to an exodus of top talent.
I think you'll see a brain drain at these larger firms going to private firms. There's no reason for them to stay. It makes no sense.
We called all 7 companies subject to the new restrictions, and Katie, they said they have no comment until the announcement is official.
All right, Cheryl Atkinson in Washington tonight. Cheryl, thank you. One goal of the taxpayer bailouts was to get financial institutions to start lending money again. But small businesses say it did not work out that way. So today, President Obama rolled out a plan to use some of the bailout money to encourage smaller banks to lend to small businesses and help them create much-needed jobs. Anthony Mason explains what prompted the new plan.
When Peter Raymond wanted to expand his small design and innovation business recently, he went to his banker for a $45,000 loan.
And she said, don't even apply right now. It's not even worth applying for.
It's that bad.
It's that bad.
The recession has hit small businesses hard. More than 2.5 million jobs have been lost.
For those who do own a small business, it's been difficult to finance inventories and make payroll or expand if things are going well.
So President Obama announced new lending initiatives to help small business today. But the number of loans backed by the Small Business Administration actually has dropped by 36% over the past year. The total dollar volume has also fallen sharply, from well over $12 billion to a little over $9 billion.
Plans to hire, plans to invest in inventory are at 35-year lows. So a lot of businesses that could borrow are just sitting on the sidelines waiting for customers to show up.
Peter Raymond's company, Human Condition, is developing products like this system that reads the impact of texting while driving.
To see at what point they looked down, how long they looked down, when they looked up, and then what reaction came from that.
But he's had to postpone hiring and slow his research.
You'd be a bigger company right now if you could get the money.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have to spend more time on thinking of financing than we can about business, and we should be thinking about more about the business.
That's a problem because small businesses have created nearly 2/3 of all the new jobs over the past decade and a half. In other words, we can't have a recovery without them. Katie?
Anthony Mason. Anthony, thank you. Now turning to the H1N1 flu, which, as many of you know, is hitting children especially hard. Federal health officials said today the shortage of vaccine could stretch into December, nearly halfway through the school year. Since the start of classes, 628 schools have closed for at least one day because of concerns over H1N1. About 219,000 students have been affected. Dean Reynolds has more on the impact on schools, students, and their families.
Vacant halls at this closed suburban Chicago high school are a vivid symbol of the alarm the flu has stirred among students, administrators, and parents nationwide.
By the end of the day yesterday, we were at 972 students calling out ill. 45% of our student body was gone.
Tuesday night's soccer game was the last activity at St. Charles East High School, now closed for the rest of the week. While there are no confirmed cases here of H1N1 flu so far, or in the other two closed schools in Illinois, many students fear the worst.
A lot of them had really bad headaches and just like scratchy throats, but then there are also some people with like stomach aches and such.
As of this afternoon, 198 schools were closed in 15 states, affecting some 65,000 students and 4,000 teachers. And a new report by Quest Diagnostics said 5 to 14-year-olds are spreading the H1N1 virus to others.
My head is like throbbing and my throat feels really sore.
As the middle school children infect their older or younger sibs, as parents get exposed, as grandparents get exposed, you'll see this spread out like a wave.
And yet the vaccine's availability is in doubt. Inoculation programs in Massachusetts, Idaho, and Virginia are being delayed or cut because they don't have enough supply, creating concern and confusion.
I think the information seems to be changing all the time, so it's hard to know what to believe.
But federal officials say closing schools should be a last resort.
It puts a strain on families. I worry about children who don't eat, who rely on those school lunches when schools are closed. That's very difficult to do. And the social disruption of closing schools is huge, not to mention the loss of learning opportunity.
And closing a school is costly, not only in terms of idled staff, but because those kids staying home could force at least one working parent to stay home with them. Katie?
Thanks a lot. Dean Reynolds in Chicago tonight. Now, an update on our exclusive report earlier this week about an experimental drug to treat the sickest flu patients. The problem is the FDA rarely gives doctors permission to use it. But following his report, Wyatt Andrews tells us health officials now say that could change in a matter of days.
As more patients fall critically ill to H1N1, Congress, citing a CBS News report from Monday, began asking where are the emergency drugs the administration was supposed to prepare.
If this is your relative in an ICU facing death possibly, you want whatever science can give you.
Senator Joe Lieberman pressed the HHS secretary on why 3 antiviral drugs, Tamiflu, Relenza, and Peramivir, have not yet received emergency approval in IV form. The administration has known since April that intensive care doctors would need those drugs this fall.
This will be a life and death decision.
Yes, Senator, all of that is correct, and it is imminent.
As CBS News reported Monday, Peramivir is not yet FDA approved, but it's the only IV antiviral drug shown safe and effective in human clinical trials. We found 8 patients around the country, most of them deathly ill, who recovered from H1N1 after taking Peramivir experimentally.
Lucky is one way to say it. The grace of God.
The critical care physicians we contacted all said the FDA should be careful about releasing emergency drugs. But patients are dying, one doctor said, and these antivirals are needed now. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Washington.
And by the way, you may have noticed a bandage above Secretary Sebelius's eye. She had minor skin cancer surgery yesterday in an outpatient procedure. Also in Washington, the battle over health care reform. The House has 3 versions, and tonight, Speaker Nancy Pelosi appears to have settled on the one with the most liberal of public options. This is a big win for supporters of a public option and makes it more likely there will be one in the final bill. Healthy living was the theme at the White House today in an event to encourage kids to eat better and get more exercise. Michelle Obama did something you wouldn't expect of a first lady. She hooped it up, using a hula hoop, of course. You can tell she's no beginner. Mrs. Obama knew how to move it, and she turned, even clapped, while keeping the hoop in motion. Altogether, she kept it going for about a minute and a half, 142 rotations in all, before she finally ran out of steam. When it was all over, though, she took off on a victory lap. And coming up next, a CBS News exclusive, battling America's biggest organized crime threat, Mexican drug gangs, setting up shop right here in the United States. Iran inched closer today to accepting a deal over its nuclear program. During talks with the U.S., Russia, and France, Iranian negotiators endorsed a plan to send most of their country's weapons-grade uranium to Russia. In return, Iran would get back nuclear fuel rods that could be used for medical research, but not for making bombs. Iran's leaders still have to sign off on the agreement. From the state of affairs in Iran to the state of Georgia. When you think of Georgia, you may think of peaches, pecans, and Coca-Cola. But these days, Georgia is becoming known for a different kind of Coke and as a major hub for Mexico's drug cartels. From Atlanta, Mark Strassman has this exclusive report.
As you see us pulling up, just come through the trees.
Nothing about this house shouts it's part of America's greatest organized crime threat.
Search warrant! Search warrant!
Except these guys. Throughout metro Atlanta, DEA agents say Mexican drug cartels are hiding in plain sight. Inside this closet, a shopping bag holds $250,000 in cash. Also seized, 6 pounds of methamphetamine with a street value of another $250,000. 4 rival Mexican drug cartels have dug in along Atlanta's interlocking highways, a shipping link to the rest of America.
I classify Metro Atlanta as a strategic operations center for Mexican organized crime. They were able to kind of blend right in and establish Metro Atlanta really as that strategic transshipment point.
As of Friday or Saturday, he was supposed to have about $250,000 in the house. We're talking about 10 kilos of cocaine.
For the last 7 months, CBS News has followed Steve Whipple, a DEA field supervisor, here tailing a suspect named Gilberto Alcaraz.
What does Gilberto represent to you?
A mid-level distributor.
There he goes.
Alcaraz is an opportunist, Whipple says, doing business with all the cartels.
All right, the guy's on the phone right now as we speak.
For Alcaraz, it's a family business. As we watch, his son, all of 13, contacts this blonde woman.
All right, the little kid walked up.
Inside this car, DEA agents say she settles a drug debt. This is Alcaraz's house, a low-key lifestyle for a guy Whipple says earns $50,000 a week.
They're going to drive the beat-up pickup with a push mower in the back, and they're going to try to look like a guy who's running a landscaping business.
Mexico's drug cartels are now the main suppliers in at least 230 U.S. cities and dominate 70% of America's illegal drug market. Just outside Atlanta, Gwinnett County is their new drug hub. Danny Porter has been district attorney here for 20 years.
We're finding that they're transshipping cocaine through Atlanta to Miami. So the days of the cigarette boats and the pastel suits, those are gone. And you know, I guess we're the new Miami Vice.
After 9 weeks of surveillance, Whipple took down Alcaraz, searched his house, and made another arrest. It's one interruption in the daily surge of drugs and cash flowing between Atlanta's quiet suburbs and Mexico's meanest streets. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Atlanta.
Also in Georgia, a grim discovery today. Detectives searching for a missing 7-year-old Florida girl found a child's body in a landfill just north of the Florida state line. The body has not been identified. Police have been looking for Summer Thompson since Monday, when she vanished near Jacksonville during a mile-long walk home from school. In Massachusetts, a former teacher at a Muslim school near Boston was arrested today on terror charges. 27-year-old Tariq Mahana is accused of being part of a plot to kill 2 unidentified American politicians and to attack shopping malls. Mahana was defiant at his court appearance, initially refusing the judge's order to stand up. His father later told reporters the charges are false. Coming up next, nearly half a millennium after Anglicans split with the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican says, come back. The Vatican is inviting Anglicans to join the Roman Catholic Church. Jim Axelrod tells us the Pope is hoping to attract conservative Anglicans and Episcopalians who've grown disenchanted with leaders of their church.
Long-simmering disputes in the Anglican Church over ordaining women in same-sex unions blew up 6 years ago.
Greet your new bishop.
When the U.S. Episcopal Church, the Anglicans in America, consecrated an openly gay bishop, Gene Robinson. But now, with the Vatican's courting of conservative Anglicans troubled by the direction of their church, the Anglican Church faces a threat religious experts see as nothing short of historic.
And now, with this move, there's really nothing that's been like in the last 500 years.
The Catholic Church announced it'll streamline the conversion process by allowing Anglicans to keep many of their traditions for worship, including allowing married priests. The Catholic Church won't provide exact details of what's required for Anglicans to join for a couple of months, but made it clear Anglicans are welcome as they are.
The accusation of poaching is definitely out there. In fact, they tried to preempt that in the Vatican by saying that they were not fishing in other people's waters, but they were simply opening the door to those who already were looking to leave.
There are 77 million Anglicans around the world, including 3.5 million Episcopalians in America. But even conservative Anglican leaders don't expect a mass exodus right away.
Here in the United States, there will be, I think, a trickle. People will consider it, and they'll say their prayers about it. I don't know of any congregations at this point who are actually moving very quickly to act on the offer.
One of the unintended consequences for the Catholic Church might be to open up debate about priests and celibacy. One church expert said it's a reasonable question. If married priests are allowed in one case, then why not in more cases? Katie?
Very interesting. Jim Axelrod. Jim, thanks so much. And coming up next, a modern-day Johnny Appleseed spreading the American spirit. We end tonight with a man who's out to make his little corner of the country a lot more beautiful than he found it. And he's doing it one tree at a time. Ben Tracy now with the American spirit.
American Sweet Gum is what this tree is called.
Given his name, it makes sense that Brent Green's view of the world is a bit colorful.
I kind of see the world in plants. It's an odd thing. It's just what I do.
And it's always been that way. As a kid, when his parents gave him $5, Brent didn't spend it on candy or toys. He bought plants. When his siblings followed their father into careers in law, Brent heard the calling of the great outdoors. He became a landscaper.
Always been my thing, plants and trees and greenery.
But when he and his family bought their first house in this Los Angeles neighborhood 6 years ago, the color was in all the wrong places, and it wasn't exactly welcoming.
The houses had a lot of bars. There wasn't a whole lot of interaction between neighbors.
So Brent added some serious curb appeal to his house. Here it is when they moved in, and this is what it looks like now. The transformation out back, even more impressive. The neighbors noticed.
People saw that. They said, my God, wow, I like my home to look like that too.
And so began Brent's green revolution on Orange Drive.
You know what? Like I said, maybe we put some plants right here.
For 11 years now, Brent has been planting his age in trees.
On my 30th birthday, I wanted to give something back to the city of L.A. I mean, I love this city. I really do. And so I planted 30 trees that year.
This year, he'll plant 41.
This tree is a Jacaranda mimosifolia.
Some of his neighbors did not get it.
Did they kind of look at you like you were nuts? Like, why are you giving me a free tree?
So some people were like, what's in it for you? What's it going to cost?
Well, each tree is about $20. Brent has now paid for and planted more than 420 trees in his part of the city. He's also helping transform his neighbors' yards. Bushes are replacing bars, and the street, now shaded, is beginning to bloom.
It's not this baking sun asphalt jungle that it once was.
Yet Brent planting all of these trees hasn't simply made the neighborhood look better. It's changed the landscape in ways he never imagined.
Watch out, watch out.
His neighbors formed a block watch group, and their efforts have branched out to include newly repainted fire hydrants, speed bumps to slow down traffic, and increase police patrols.
Being involved, meeting people, talking to your neighbors, it can just transform the place where you live.
In fact, overall crime in the area is down nearly 30%.
The neighborhood looks great, Brent.
It's made this officer's job easier.
So the change has been dramatic. It's a lot safer. You have kids walking up and down the streets instead of prostitutes strolling the streets now.
And it all started with one man. The older he gets, the more he gives back.
Another baby.
Kind of like his trees. Ben Tracy, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Really looks beautiful. And if you know someone who exemplifies the American spirit, we're sure you do, please let us know by going to cbsnews.com/theamericanspirit. And that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.